Is French evolving new verb conjugations? For the past few decades, linguists have been debating this claim, but it's kind of controversial. By conjugation, we're talking about how verbs agree with their subjects, like the difference between I eat and he eats. The S at the end there indicates that the subject is third person singular. Now, French already has extensive conjugations in writing, but when pronounced, a lot of these forms sound the same, and one of these forms isn't even really used in spoken French, so it sure seems as if French is starting to lose its conjugations. So to compensate, French might be developing new ones. Subject pronouns can often be reduced to such an extent that sometimes they just stick on to the very next verb, in effect creating a new set of conjugations. So instead of je peux, tu peux, il peut, you get je peux, tu peux, il peut. But hang on, are these really new conjugations, or is it just a sort of contraction? Like in English, when instead of saying you know, we say you know. Well, that's the big debate. Are these just contractions, or do they really qualify as verb conjugations? If you ask me, it's the latter. First off, French does these contractions way more than in English, to such an extent that sometimes the pronoun gets fused into the verb. Another piece of evidence is repeated verbs. In English, I could say something like she sings and she dances, but I could also just say she sings and dances. I don't have to repeat the pronoun, but I do have to repeat the verb conjugation. Now this is also true for standard French, but in colloquial French, you almost always hear elle chante et elle danse. The repetition of the pronoun kinda makes it seem like it's behaving more like a verb conjugation. But one of the strongest pieces of evidence is subject doubling. Now in English, we'll do this sometimes to mark emphasis or to draw contrast. Like, John, he sings, but me, I dance. But spoken French does this way more often. According to some estimates, up to 70% of the sentences made by young French speakers contain subject doubling. That's like if me, I spoke like this, even though us, we're not too used to it, though y'all, you'd probably adjust after a while. French speakers, they do this all the time, which for us, we might find a little bit strange. This phenomenon, it's normally reserved for contrast or emphasis, at least in English, but those things, they aren't always present in French. But what if they're not doubled subjects at all? Instead, you could just analyze it as a single subject followed by a verb conjugation. After all, this is how verb conjugation evolves in the first place. The Bantu languages, for example, have extensive verb conjugation, but go back to their common ancestor, and it's believed that these conjugations were originally independent pronouns that got attached to the verb. So has French gone through the same thing and evolved new conjugations? Well, it's hard to be definitive. There's a lot of literature on this subject, and it's impossible to summarize it all in just 3 minutes. If nothing else, we can certainly say that French is on track to develop new conjugations quite soon, if they haven't gotten there already. So who knows? Instead of learning conjugations like je sais, tu sais, il sait, future French speakers will learn moi sais, toi sais, lui il sait.